Hello, everybody. Recording live from somewhere.
It's The Session with Mel G.
And now for my next number, I'd like to return to the
Classic. I think that we should start with the session. But before we begin, let me ask you a few questions. Have you
Get sick, so we walk around with no face. USA is a cold place. Cold world, we don't even got a north face. Every day could be a less day. Drinking, I've been drinking on the AA.
Hey everybody, welcome to Classes in Session, episode 9. I'm your host Mel G, and today we're doing a real Miami, real Florida episode, so I'm excited to rep for my people. Today we're going to be breaking down Denzel Curry's song The Last off of his new project, Melt My Eyes, See Your Future, that just recently dropped. Now, I'm excited for him and such a pleasure to see him on this journey of his. He went from like an underground SoundCloud rapper to becoming a real star. He's so creative, and it's such a beautiful thing to witness. He decided that on this album he was going to do something completely different from what he's done before, and with each project it's such a different output each time. This time he wanted to put his flaws out there before anyone else could, and this album is really about self-discovery. Nostalgia 64 was kind of to separate himself from Raider Clan. Imperial was like an angrier project based on the reception of N64, and Taboo was a kind of a similar thing, but this new project was meant to separate himself from himself. His most mature record thus far, a lot of people are calling it his magnum opus, and I can see why. It's really such an incredible project, and I'm really happy for him. There's definitely like a couple clever parts here and there as long as they related, but it wasn't so much about metaphors and bars this time. It was more about being vulnerable, and it was more about feelings. Previously, he wasn't able to like articulate his thoughts and feelings the right way, and it would come out crazy like a bunch of built up energy, and that's how we got records like ULT or Black Metal Terrorist. This record, he was able to talk about his feelings without yelling for attention. Thanks to the pandemic, we got such an excellent and cohesive project like Melt My Eyes. Thanks to therapy and doing the inner work, we got a project like this. Denzel has been super open about him going to therapy, you know, when the world shut down because of the pandemic. He got a chance to really reflect on everything, on his flaws, and work through them most importantly. And there was no more distractions in particular, like, you know, no more shows, no more industry shit. So he was really like slowing down and realizing things for himself. This project is basically him looking in the mirror and spilling it out all on these songs. He had like a mental breakdown. You know, he had all this success, but he couldn't really enjoy it because he was depressed. So all the stuff he was indulging in, from alcohol, random women, he just felt empty. And in an interview, he even said, innocent fun to guilty pleasures. He didn't feel like he had a soul. He felt soulless. He was becoming an addict, which he eventually became, and that's what caused the reset. He realized he had to work out through all the things that he was feeling and experiencing. Spiritual growth was super important to him as well. His mom would sometimes send them Bible scriptures, you know, through text. She's a Jehovah's Witness and his father's a Baptist. And he never really believed in religion, but he did believe in God. Over time, he realized that religion was a good foundation and that he needed to incorporate that in his life. He wrote the plan to make this album in 2018 after making Taboo. This album was supposed to come out after, but you got Zoo and got unlocked because he was going through these particular things and he didn't have the emotional intelligence to talk about it yet. On this project, he definitely does. The Melt Your Eyes concept is basically broken down like this. Melt your eyes equals melting your perception of what society is and what you used to be, and seeing everything for what it really is. We see a lot of things in society and we choose to not pay attention, but once you melt your eyes, you become aware. So once you become aware, you can see the truth within society and within yourself. So such a great concept, and he does elaborate that on track 1, you know, Melt Your Eyes is the first track we get. With this project, it was actually surprising to hear him say this, but I'm happy to see that people are still appreciating the real hip-hop roots and, you know, the back-in-the-day shit. He was heavily inspired by the Soulquarians, which include artists such as Erykah Badu, Common, The Roots, D'Angelo, and he was adamant about recording at Electric Lady, which is the studio where a lot of those artists recorded in and made music in. Some of the albums he studied were D'Angelo, Voodoo, Erykah Badu, Mama's Gun, The Roots, Things Fall Apart, which this was the first album he said that he studied, which inspired him heavily on the album. A little bit of Kanye Graduation, a little bit of Kid Cudi, Nas Illmatic, which he actually wanted to premiere on this album, which was pretty exciting, and all of Kendrick Lamar's albums. So these were kind of some of the things that he studied, along with film and other things that he's interested in, anime, you know, Japanese stuff. It's really, you can tell the influence too on the album cover, and all his releases have been really like with that aesthetic, so I really love that he's being true to himself. So based on all of that, you can already imagine that this project is a special one. I want to talk a little bit about, the songs. Melt Session #1 featuring Robert Glasper. It was such a solid opening, like he was really being honest. Just to kick off the album, track 1, he was already spitting the shit. Track 2 is Walking, which was one of his singles. And that one just kind of like blew up everything. Like the music video, everybody was just paying attention to what the fuck he was saying because it was just so real. Like you couldn't avoid it. Worst come to worst is track 3. I really wanted to do this one. I was like debating, but that's a strong, solid song. He did a song called John Wayne featuring Buzzy Lee, and he really, on all these songs, he just talks on so many social, political, economic problems, just reality, things that you go through as a person, facing your demons, and all these things are touched upon on each song. The next track is The Last, which we're going to break down now. Song after that is Mental featuring Saul Williams and Bridget Perez. Man, that's such a mellow track. All the beats on this album, it just fit the vibe and it just flowed perfectly. It was like, there's no skips on this album to me personally. Like it was just him, what he studied. You can tell how influenced he was by everything. Everything was so like mellow and chill. And then we actually get into track 7, Troubles, featuring T-Pain, which is another Florida legend. And he really enjoyed working with him and having that opportunity to, make music with someone like T-Pain. And it was just kind of more like the upbeat song that kind of like switched the flow a little bit on the album. The next song is called Ain't No Way, featuring Black, Rico Nasty, J.A.D., Power Pleasance, Josiah, and Kitty Cash. Like, this was an incredible collaboration in the studio. He explains it several times in a couple interviews how that song came about. It was just like he was in the studio, Rico Nasty was next door, then she called Jid, he brought Black. Like, it was just such a huge collaboration, and man, the lyricism on that track, they really displayed it. And that was like the flex song. Like that was just like them spitting and creating such a vibe. That was like one of the standout tracks for me. I would have done that one if it wasn't so many people on it, but really that might be my favorite track on the album. We get X-Wing, which is a great song, Angels featuring Kareem Riggins, The Smell of Death, Sanjuro featuring 454, which I believe is another Florida artist, Zatoichi, which is based on a Japanese film of a man, like a blind man, the blind leading the blind kind of concept, and how we really follow that, unfortunately, but he touches on all that stuff. And the last track is The Ills, which is another song I considered doing. He's just so vulnerable, man, in all these songs and speaking that real, and it was just a solid project from beginning to end, honestly. So let's get into this breakdown. As I mentioned, the song I'm going to break down today is called The Last, and he kicks it off with the chorus. Any day can be our last day. So much troubles on the streets that we need to buy an AK. It's true, like at any given moment, it could be our last breath or last days. And as things keep getting worse and worse day by day, having protection for you and your family is highly recommended at this point. Bring a mask for the whole day. We ain't trying to get sick, so we walk around with no face. I really appreciated how Denzel approached talking about COVID and the pandemic in all his tracks. Like, he didn't do some like corny, cheesy, I'm sick like the virus bars like a lot of people have done. He really approached it in a way that it talks about how we've had to adjust and get used to this new way of living and avoid getting sick. So I really liked his approach, like I said, and also how we become faceless due to wearing a mask all day. So that's an interesting concept. The USA is a cold place, cold world, we don't even got a North Face. Any day could be our last day. Drinking, I've been drinking any day. So basically, he's painting the picture here that the United States is literally such an emotionless place, hence being cold. And I love how he mentions we don't even got a North Face, like the jacket. It really makes you feel and understand the imagery of USA being a cold place. In some interviews I've seen, Denzel explains how he was heavy into drinking, amongst other things, to help get through his problems so much that he felt like he needed to join AA. So the chorus repeats and then we get into verse 1. I've been smoking chronic on my Panasonic, watching people dying, got me being honest with my savior, keep that sinning away from me, yeah. A lot of people smoke weed to cope through with whatever they're going through, and he's just so real when he says on my Panasonic, watching people dying, because it's such a sad truth. Like, it's so easy for us to either see it happening on TV, social media, you know, watching our people dying, and we absorb all that shit. You know, Denzel has expressed leaning on religion to build a foundation for himself, and he realized that he needed to incorporate that in his life. And I love the lines, got me being honest with my savior, keep that sinning away from me, because it shows his growth and it demonstrates all throughout the album. And he's also trying to do better by being honest with himself and his savior and staying away from bad energy, aka sinning. Shit is hard to stomach, I can't even bomb it, pour up gin and tonic just to calm my conscience, one that on every second I want to leave, yeah. Denzel expresses here how hard life can be to stomach, which is something we can all relate to going through tough times. And here he mentions again how he was depending on alcohol to calm him and contemplating whether or not he wanted to be alive, which, like, I feel these are pretty tough topics to talk about, so I appreciate his vulnerability. Forced to be mellow, see my common fellow. Told him keep your distance, can't even say hello. It struck me harder than a bow and arrow. Once more, the pandemic has been so hard on all of us, and this is another example of how he addresses all this adjustment we've had to do and not being corny about it. Like, this is real. Like, you know, not only do we have to avoid seeing our family and friends for such a long time, but even people on the street, common fellows, you had to tell them to keep their distance. Like, sorry, can't get too close to you, can't speak to you face to face, because we would be at risk of catching this horrible virus. The lack of human contact and connection really struck us all super hard. And I just like how he approaches talking about it here and how it took a toll on him personally. Time is getting worse for people in the ghetto. Too many homeless people laying down, too many roses, losing loved ones that be the closest. People run up with guns fully loaded, they might blow it. Poor communities have always had it rough, and you know, through the pandemic it's been such a difficult time, and it continues to get worse. Homelessness is increasing in so many states, and it's just so sad. We have definitely lost way too many people in the past 2 years, you know, besides just regular everyday life and death situations, but COVID really struck a lot of people, and it's hit home, man. You know, we're losing too many close people, and it hurts like hell. His last lines basically just paint the picture of people who carry these days and are ready to fire shots regardless of the consequences, out of necessity, beef, self-defense, etc. He gets into the chorus that repeats twice more, and then we get into verse 2. Stayed off the net now, I'm constantly reading. Again, showing his growth here once more. He's keeping his head in the book rather than doom scrolling, as some may call it, and you know, just absorbing and reading all that negative energy that social media can offer. Looking for answers, that's what I've been seeking. The ones with influence don't ever be teaching. I love that Denzel is so focused on figuring out life at this point. He seems focused on a more positive path, and it's inspiring and encouraging, honestly. I also love that he points out that people in leadership never teach the truth, and what really should be taught to the masses. It's just a bunch of bullshit at all times. Industry colorists, they need to cut the shit. Can't fuck with government, what can I say? Caught me some other shit, can't fall in love with it. I say a prayer to not be the prey. He calls out the industry here, and he speaks on how colorism affects people of darker complexion, and we see that in so many industries, not only music and hip-hop. Even the government can't fuck with them, and neither can I, so I really appreciate that. His last bars here, I say a prayer to not be the prey, continue to show like the listener how much he's using his faith and prayer to guide him through his everyday life. Pose with the drama OD, then they turn around and throw the drama on me. These are the only reasons why I stay low-key. I love how Denzel here is describing how to stay away from the drama, especially with the hoes, and low-key is the way to be, you already know. And I knew this world was shitty when we lost Kobe. May he rest in peace, the fucking legend Kobe Bryant, man. This is super facts. Like, as soon as that death happened, it shocked the world. Like, everybody was affected by that. And ever since that moment, that January when it happened, like, it just went to shit. Everything went to shit. Young man, black man, I'm a Negro. World had to heal, now the world needs growth. He's proud of who he is and where he comes from, and he also points out how much healing and growth we all need to do. Cops killing blacks when the whites do the most, and your so-called revolution ain't nothing but a post, period. We already know how cops get down in such bullshit, and it's so blatant. Like, I hate that shit. And I love these last closing lines because so many people claim to stand with the oppressed, but in reality it's just theatrics. So fuck your fake social media posts, it's all bullshit. The chorus comes out one more time and repeats it twice just to close out the track. And again, every line here is just so powerful, so strong, so honest. He's talking about real shit that he sees around him and that he's experiencing, and everything that we go through as humans, and this is how it is throughout the whole project. He's proud of this record. There's no filler tracks. Everything was on purpose. The videos are very conceptual. He shot some of them in Peru, which I thought was super interesting. He's so dedicated and creative, and everything was meant to have movement. He mentions, you know, a couple films that he studied, you know, Django, and a lot of people, Mandalorian was another one he mentioned, and just a lot of people walking, which, you know, incorporates with his single Walking. And he even explains, if you hear this album, visualize it as a narrative of someone walking through this world, having to face different problems on the daily. He understands his feelings more now. He says that on Zoo he freestyled a majority of it, but on this album he wrote it all, and this process helped him speak about all these topics, you know, very vividly. Practicing martial arts was something that really helped him through this healing and development of his, Muay Thai in this case. He describes martial arts like a conversation. It shouldn't be angry or aggressive or an argument. It should be more of a conversation and trading information. And through this martial arts approach to life, he began making music in that same manner. He wanted his music to feel like he was talking to the people that follow him, like, this is who I am and this is a conversation. I feel we should have an open one. He was just so honest and vulnerable throughout the whole album, and it just makes you think and reflect about yourself and your own problems and your own flaws. In his single Walking, he says, I'm killing off these demons because my soul is worth redeeming. And I feel like that's such a beautiful concept: forgiveness, healing, growth. And it just makes you, again, think about yourself and the things that you can fix along the way. This project was just so amazing on so many levels. There is one genre he says he hasn't spoken about, and that would be love. So he's already thinking about that next concept, that next project. His creativity is always on 1,000. He says he's in a relationship now, but he has to experience it some more to be able to make some music about that. So we'll see what type of love music Denzel makes in the future. Denzel has been in the game for a decade already, and he continues to improve with every release. He's like an album artist. Someone on Twitter said that the C in Denzel Curry stands for consistency, in which he replied catalog. And I agree with both of those statements. He's looking for that Grammy win, or at least Grammy nomination. After all these years, he feels that people need to stop sleeping on him. He is such a complete artist, and I really feel that he needs to be recognized for his talent and incredible music. Proud to say he's repping Carol City, he's repping Miami, repping Florida. He's such an amazing artist, and I can't wait to see what else he does in the future. So that's a wrap on Classes in Session episode 9. I've been your host, Mel G. Today we broke down Denzel Curry's song The Last off of his album Melt My Eyes, See Your Future. Make sure to check it out. It really is a solid project beginning to end. And it's been a pleasure to be here. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe to The Session TV for more episodes and more from me. Take care, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this episode. One love.